I've been watching this movie Stardust. I haven't seen it in a while. It's pretty good. It's worth at least one watch for those of you out there who haven't seen it. But during the course of watching it, it's led me down a path of thought that made me realize I wanted to address some things with Zay. So here you go, Zay. Just some stuff I felt I needed to point out. As I've said, back in January 2021, roughly around then, that's when I first stumbled upon your YouTube channel and first learned who you are. That's when I first realized you even existed. And at first it was because I liked your videos, your True Facts videos, the ones that I'd seen, and I went searching for more content that you were putting out. And that led me to your first two video series, A Show with Zay Frank and The Show with Zay Frank, which obviously then led me to realizing that you were making these cryptic references to these occult symbols and deities like the Abrasics in your videos, which dragged me down the rabbit's hole, so to speak. It's certainly been an experience. And researching you and your associates and your family and coming to realize that you are almost certainly a member of a cult of some sort, a coven or a network of people who seem to have a very specific belief system and that likely engage in incest and child abuse. Now, I've mentioned also that in the days, weeks, months leading up to my discovering your existence, what I was doing pretty much daily was crying and weeping and sobbing and screaming at the walls and the skies and the stars and the gods and whatever, and begging, where is my person? Where is my other half? Where is the person I'm meant to be with? And specifically, I was saying quite often, where is my other half? Because I guess I'm one of those sorry suckers who believes in soulmates and twin flames and all that. Whether you do or not, I can't seem to get away from it. It's one of those things where it just feels like it's true, even if there's no evidence to support it. It just feels like that is the case, like in my bones, or something even deeper than my bones. Like I have another half somewhere out there. I have a person that I am meant to be with, that I'm meant to connect with, to share my life with, to have a bond with. And that's what I was begging for a long time. And then suddenly I stumbled upon you and your YouTube channel. And feels like at this point, my whole life got flipped on its head. I mean, everything changed. I can tell you this much. I know after 40 years of life experience that at least some things happen for a reason. And something like me noticing you making those references in such a clever, coded, cryptic manner that most people wouldn't have noticed. But I noticed it. I saw it. That happened for a reason. That's not a coincidence kind of a thing. And the more I looked into the whole, all of my suspicions, the more I researched you, the more I researched your family and your friends and your associates, the more my suspicions were confirmed. It all added up more and more and more. And there's just evidence on top of evidence on top of evidence supporting what I feared was the case. So the point I'm getting at is, well, and also, and I do have this very strong feeling like we were meant to cross paths, not just in a virtual sense. And you are well aware of my existence at this point. I don't know exactly when you became aware of my existence, but I know you know about me at this point. So the overall feeling is that we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. That it's not just supposed to be a virtual conversation taking place over the internet. So why are we limiting ourselves to this virtual conversation taking place over the internet? And that's the point I'm coming to. And if you think about it, if you really sit down and think about it, I'm sorry, but it's not me. I am who I am. I am what I am. It feels like, it seems to me that, and this is what kind of has been throwing me into a hopeless mindset for a while now, since before I even came down to Florida, which is that it's either the choice I'm being given, either by you or I don't know, is I either have to sacrifice a very fundamental part of myself and agree to join up with a group of people who engage in activities that I just don't agree with in any way. And that's putting it kindly. I'm so averse to even the thought of doing some of the things that I'm like 99.9% sure that you guys get up to, that in order for me to ever agree to come along on that ride, I would have to sacrifice a part of myself that makes me who I am. And so I have felt for months and months and months now, torn. Like, so I can't have any real contact with this person I feel like I was meant to meet in more than just, and have some kind of connection with that is supposed to be more than just a series of conversations, cryptic, clever, coded conversations through our videos that we post to our respective YouTube channels. So I can't have that connection with this person unless I change who I am, unless I sacrifice who or what I am my beliefs, and it's not just beliefs. I'm trying to find the words for it. It's in my bones. It's in my gut. It's in my blood. It's in some intangible part of myself that just cringes at the thought of doing the things that I suspect you people of doing, or even just stepping back and allowing you to get away with it, or helping you to get away with it, or being a part of it in any way other than to attempt to stop it or succeed in stopping it. It just feels like it's a part of the very fiber of my being to be against child rape, to be against any kind of sexual relationships between adults and children. And I've tried every which philosophical way. I can almost, I'll hand you this little, I don't know how to put it. I can almost, on some disconnected, distant philosophical way, if I take on like a practically Shiva-like, I don't give a shit, like nothing phases me, nothing matters kind of mindset, philosophical mindset, like do what thou wilt, whatever happens, happens. But also, I think I've explained enough, given enough explanations for why I think you guys do what you do, the belief system behind it, that you should understand that I've given it a good deal of thought. So I can almost understand why you do it. But some part of me just won't go along for that ride. You understand? So anyway, it's like, you should know by now I'm not going to do that. If I was going to, I would have given in a long time ago. This would be very different at this point. So I'm not going to change. It's like you keep wanting me to change a part of me so that maybe this connection can be something other than a conversation over YouTube. But then it's like, you don't really like me. You don't really want a connection with me then. Right? It's like that, the vampire series that Anne Rice writes with with Louis and Interview with the Vampire and Lestat. And in a lot of the other stories in that series, I don't read them, but I hear other people talking about them. A lot of times there will be a relationship between a vampire and a human, and they will be extremely drawn to one another. And then the vampire will turn the human into a vampire, and then suddenly that connection they have to each other, that draw that they feel for each other, attraction, is severed. It's gone, because I guess a big piece of that connection, of what attracted the vampire to the human, was wrapped up in whatever it was that made them human. And as soon as they became a vampire, the attraction was gone, not just on the vampire's end, but on the new vampire's end, on the human's end. As soon as they became a vampire, they suddenly weren't attracted to the vampire that made them anymore. The connection was just dissolved. And I'm thinking it's because as soon as the human was made into a vampire, they were not themselves anymore. They were not that person, that individual that was the other half of that one, that made up one half of that connection to begin with. So you change a fundamental piece of a person, and it's, the connection won't won't exist anymore. It'll be severed. So it seems like you don't really want to have this connection with me, or maybe you're not thinking this through, but I think you're smart enough to have thought this far into it, at least. But I have to wonder if you've gone far enough with your analysis to have figured out that, there is a third option here. I realize that it's not just two options. It's not just, I have to sacrifice who I am fundamentally and join these people, or I'm not going to have any kind of closure or connection or even a closure with this dude. Or I just will be lonely. I'll feel forever like I let the biggest, most meaningful bond I had or could have had with somebody just slip through my fingers, or it was never fully realized because I refused to change who I am. But again, if I changed who I was, it would go away anyway, the bond. Or there is the risk of that happening. Didn't necessarily always happen between a vampire and a human once the human was turned, but it happened in some cases. But the third option is, you probably won't like this. The third option is you leave them. You leave the cult that you're a part of. You leave this coven network of people who commit incest and hurt children and betray the ones who should be able to trust you the most. You leave them and you come to my side of things. There is that third option, actually. But then I have to consider the fact that you possibly can't do that, or you feel like you can do that. Let's just be clear about that. That is a possibility. You absolutely can, but you might not like the consequences of it. So I have to consider the fact that the other members of your little group, network, coven, what have you, might, and you probably know that they might kill you, hurt you, harm you, or kill me, or both of us, right? If you leave them, they might see it as a betrayal. And I'm sure you've taken oaths and such. I hear that the Freemasons, most of those secret societies, right, when you become a member, you have to take oaths and make promises that you will never reveal secrets that you've learned, and so on and so forth, or else you would you are allowing basically the other members of your group to murder you. You're basically granting permission. That doesn't mean they have to. Just because you're granting them permission, just because you granted them permission by taking an oath or making a promise, that doesn't mean they have to hurt you. But you must think that they will. You must sincerely think that they would do that. Or I think you would have showed up at my doorstep a long time ago. Right? I don't know. I don't get the sense that you're that much of a coward. It's possible that to some degree you were afraid to actually see me face to face and worried about how it might go. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't think you're that much of a coward that you couldn't have gotten over that fear. So, and I know you definitely have the resources. You've had the resources, as far as I can tell. You've had the resources all this time since 2021 to have traveled to meet me in any of the number of places that I have lived over the last few years. Los Angeles, North Carolina, New Jersey. I've been down here in Florida now for a little over a year. you talk about jet setting out to San Diego and Barcelona and Frankfurt. So yeah, you do seem to have the time and resources, far more time and resources than I do, to come here to me rather than, expect me to come to you. Especially because, like, what am I going to do with the cats and with the sugar glider? I don't have anybody who can watch them down here for me, nor would I trust anybody down here I couldn't just leave Perseus. Like, he's never really been away from me for a long time. So anyway, it does seem to me that the only way for this to ever really move forward is you would actually, and for it to be me being me and you being you, you would actually have to leave them and come to my side of it. That's the third option. But I guess you're afraid for your life. I guess they would kill you or they would kill me. Right? And so there's nothing preventing us from actually meeting in a real sense, a physical sense, and going beyond having these conversations on YouTube, other than these people that you're surrounded by. It seems like they're the real enemy. They're the ones posing the threat here. Right? Well, I guess I'm sure they don't want to go to prison and such, but it's like, well, you chose to break the law of the land. You chose to break laws that I'm sure you knew ahead of time. If you got caught breaking them or you were turned in, there was a real risk that you would go to prison. Like you took that risk on when you chose to engage in these activities, guys. But so they don't seem to care, though. A part of it is they must not care about you ever figuring out. Maybe you know what this connection is more than I do, but there is a connection here. They don't seem to care if you ever fulfill it or if you go the rest of your life without ever meeting the girl who spotted you doing what you were doing on YouTube. It's like, what are the odds of that? Astronomical. So I can't imagine you didn't at least entertain the notion of wanting to meet with me. And if you are feeling in any way the kind of draw or, a sense of a pulling towards an actual meeting that I've been feeling since like 2021, well, then it's a little bit like agonizing, isn't it? And they must not care that you feel that way. So it seems they care more about themselves than they do about you, is part of the point, which I guess is the status quo in your little network. Yeah? Every man for himself. It's like, how can you stand to be around those people anymore? When it's like, we don't care. Yeah, we don't care if you spend the rest of your life always wondering, like, what might have been with that chick. What was that all about? Who was she to you obviously in some weird spiritual, fated soul level, something like that. You two were meant to cross paths. And we never let you kind of follow through with the whole thing because she is who she is and it's the opposite of who we are. And we can't have you leaving us because that's a betrayal of us and that puts us at risk. And so you're just going to have to always wonder for the rest of your life and never fulfill this bond attraction, whatever this is. You get what I'm saying? There's nothing, there's really no obstacle other than your quote unquote friends and associates, and I guess probably some of your family. These people who are supposed to have your back, I guess. It's like, why are you in any kind of a relationship with them or network with them or associated with them? If you're so afraid of them hurting you. Right? And you should have figured me out enough by now to know that if we ever did see each other in real life, so to speak, unless I thought that you were going to physically hurt me, I'm not a violent person. Like, I have no reason to, like, I might dislike the things that I suspect you of doing, but that doesn't mean that I would physically harm you. And even so, like, I'm pretty sure you're bigger than me. From what I've seen of your pictures, it looks like you're probably much bigger than me. You'd probably hold your own against me in a physical fight. I don't think it would be in my best interest to start a physical fight with you. Right? Although you never know. If I were angry enough. Don't test me. Let's just put it that way. But I won't start shit if you don't start shit. Why don't we leave it at that with the whole, like, so, but I really don't think that you're afraid of me in any kind of physical sense. So I don't think that's the reason why you haven't showed up at my doorstep in all this time. You should know better by now. You should know me better than that by now. Right? You're smart enough to suss out certain characteristics about a person. So, yeah, there is that third option. You could always leave the cult. You could always turn yourself in. I don't know. I mean, maybe you could go and maybe you're afraid of going to prison, but it's like, what, wouldn't you just serve like Jeffrey Epstein kind of time? Because we all know he didn't really kill himself in that prison. We all know that whatever corpse anybody who was paying attention knows that whatever corpse they rolled out of that prison and claimed was Jeffrey Epstein was not Jeffrey Epstein, because the ears don't match and the nose doesn't match. It was a lookalike. So Jeffrey Epstein served a very short period of time in prison and then was smuggled out of there. And as far as I know, is probably still alive on an island somewhere. So it's like, at the very fucking least, you couldn't do Jeffrey Epstein time? Really? For my sake? I guess your reputation means a lot to you. Huh? Yeah, this stuff never comes out sounding as it's never as fluid when I say it as it is in my mind. Sometimes I wish you could just like hear the thoughts in my mind as I'm having them. But yeah, how can you stand them? They don't care if they cause you to miss out on what could possibly be like the biggest fated thing or connection you're ever going to have in your life. Or unless, can you offer some other explanation as for why I stumbled upon your YouTube channel and realized what you were doing? Because plenty of people, I'm sure, have watched all of your videos and still didn't make the connections that I made. They still didn't have the realizations that I had. Right? So again, there was a reason for it. Life is not just a you know this. I'm partially saying this for any other onlookers, but hey guys, anyone out there who doesn't realize this yet, life is not just a bunch of random coincidences and things that just happen for no reason. At the very least, there are going to be a handful, I'd say most things in your life that happen to you actually happen for a reason. And some things have more of a weighty reason than others. Some things have a way more serious reason than others. And it's just so freaking far beyond just being a coincidence that I would notice him, that I would notice you, Zay, putting all that stuff in your YouTube channels. So we were supposed to be made aware of each other. And again, it feels like we were supposed to have more than just a bunch of conversations on YouTube. And so it's like, why are we, I don't want to say stalemate isn't quite the right word. Why have we, it's a standstill? It feels like we've come to some kind of a standstill. Or you're just hoping that like, that this connection will just keep this connection alive by talking to each other for an indefinite amount of time in cryptic coded ways through our YouTube channels, while you fly around the world and have fun and have a family, and I'm just sitting here alone. So that could be the other thing that you want, is you just want me to be alone for the rest of my life and just waiting for you to grow some balls and leave that cult. Because I won't ever join. Unless you can absolutely assure me and prove to me that I'm wrong, I've misread things, I don't think I have, that you guys do not engage in incest or child abuse at all. And I'm sure if that were the case, you would have assured me of it by now in a much more straightforward fashion. So, yeah, and I don't want to change that part of who I am. Believe it or not, I might not always like every single thing about myself, but I like that part of me. I don't want to change that fundamentally. And I'd have to wonder about how much you really give a shit about me if you want or expect me to change that fundamentally. And again, your so-called friends and associates, or your brethren, or whatever the hell you people call each other, they really don't give a shit about you. I guess they'd rather you just kind of go through the rest of your life always wondering what could have been and what this connection was about. And maybe it was the ultimate connection you were supposed to have. Because don't take a step towards her or we'll kill you. You don't get to leave or we'll kill you. That's not a friend. That's an asshole. That's not somebody I would want to have in my life at all in any way. And it's like, this is why this is one of the major reasons why I never joined any of the secret societies. I was always curious, but when I found out, like, oh, you have to take an oath to keep secrets, or I have to promise that I have to give you guys permission to kill me if I tell any of the secrets. So that sounds like a big setup, because it's like, what secrets would you be telling me that I might want to tell other people? Like, I wouldn't want to tell any other people the secrets you tell me unless it's stuff like, unless I feel like I have to, And if I felt like I had to tell other people, it would probably be something along the lines of, you're violating human rights, you're murdering people, you're raping children and stuff like that. Like things that you really should tell authorities about. So it sounds like you're making me take this promise because you know that eventually that's going to happen. I'm going to learn a secret or two that I'm going to feel like I have to go tell authorities about for the sake of my soul, right? So it's like you would be trapping me in a soul trap, right? It's either you'd be trapping me in a situation where it's like I either do what's best for my soul and go reveal what I've learned about the rape rituals that you people do in this cult or secret society, or I let you kill me. It's like, so I'm so glad, I'm so happy I sidestepped that whole just because there were a few times I really seriously considered, like, maybe I should join one of these secret societies. You know? I seem to be interested in this stuff. Maybe I won't be able to learn any more unless I join up with them. But then I met a few people who were members of Freemasons, and I realized, especially when I was working at one of my first, a summer job just out of high school before I went to college at Borders. Remember Borders bookstores? I worked there. And this one Freemason would come in pretty regularly, I remember, and get all of the occult books and stuff, anything he could find on esoteric symbols and anything like that, the Illuminati, and sit down and start reading them. And I would strike up some conversations with him, and he wouldn't tell me too much, but from what he did tell me, the conversations we did have, I realized that I knew more than he did about a lot of things. So I was like, well, then what good would it do me to join up with these stupid freaking gangs? That's all they are, is like trumped up gangs. If a lot of the members that have been members for so many years, they don't even seem to know very much. And I remember him telling me once even that, like, there was definitely stuff that he was not made privy to for as long as he'd been in the Freemasons, and for as high as he had gone in the Freemasons. He got a very strong sense. He knew that there were things that, like, some kind of like inner circle of the Freemasons knew, of his quote unquote brethren, that he was not made aware of. Like, there was a small group of people that seemed to know things that a lot of the other Freemasons just didn't know. It didn't seem to matter what degree of Freemasonry you rose to. You were either in the circle of people who understood or you weren't. The degree didn't seem to matter. So I was just like, yeah, well, then let's just not take that crazy fucking oath and give permissions to people to murder us. That sounds Lulu. But I mean, I'm sorry. I know I keep belittling your intelligence, but I do think you're very smart. But it's like, as smart as you are, how'd you get yourself into a dumb fucking situation like that? How'd you not see that coming down the line, dude? Oh shit! At some point, I might feel like I really have to tell somebody some of the stuff I've learned here. But if I take this oath, then they could kill me if I tell anyone. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Anyway, yeah, I'm prattling at this point, but your friends aren't your friends, dude. They're the obstacle here. There's no other obstacle. Right? If there's some other obstacle, please do, make me aware of it. Maybe you've decided you just think I'm a loser now, and you don't want to meet with me. But I feel like for a very long time you did. So, like, what stopped you during all that time? I guess you were maybe, I don't know. I won't engage in conjecture anymore, or guessing or assuming. Well, I will, but I won't prattle on about it in the video. What I'm doing right now is filing through my mind, trying to remember if there was anything else I wanted to say on the topic before I end the video. And yeah, because I feel in my gut a little tingling, like you're leaving something out, but my mind can't find it. So maybe I'll do a little follow-up video if it comes to me later. But yeah, I'm not the one telling you. I know I said it in one of my first videos, it was like, well, I didn't fully say it, but I said don't ever. But also because at the time I was pretty sure you guys were like preparing to show up and kill me at any point. But now I'm starting to wonder what's going on with that, because it's been so long now. I mean, I feel like if you're going to, you had opportunities. You've had plenty of opportunities at this point. So, or do you just keep getting thwarted? Like, are attempts being made and I'm unaware of it, and for whatever reason somehow they're all failing? The attempts are all failing. I don't know. I just know I'm still sitting here talking and breathing and stuff. So now more than anything, I want an explanation. I was also really in denial of the fact that since I first started watching your videos, and even after I started to suspect and confirm for myself with my research that you're a part of a cult, there was just this unquestionable draw. Like, I know him almost. I know I've never met him before, but it feels like I know him. So, I don't know. Can you explain that to me? Is that a totally one-sided feeling? And again, I would think that I know you're smart enough. You should have worked out by now that if I were to ever join you in your side of all of this, I would not be me anymore. So I don't know how you could possibly like me if you want me to change. Or I don't know how you could possibly think that there might still be any kind of that feeling of this draw towards each other, or at least from my end, if I were to change in such a basic way. Yeah, I'm just gonna I'm gonna shut up because I'm prattling, repeating myself. It popped into my mind a moment ago, the other thing that I wanted to say, and then it went away because I was just trying to finish up the sentence I was saying. And I forgot it in that span of time. All right. What else is the obstacles, eh? Seriously, if you see that there's some other obstacle besides your friends and your family and the other members of your cult, likely in some ways holding you captive, like, it seems like they are the enemies. You're surrounded by the enemy. I know I certainly don't have anybody here around me saying, no, you can't, like take the next steps of trying to figure out and explore like why you noticed Ze Frank doing what he was doing and why you feel this very strong feeling of familiarity towards him and a draw towards him, like a pull, as if I know you from some other life or something. It's fucking freaky. And I haven't had this feeling about anybody else ever. Not even about my daughter's father. You know, that didn't feel, when I met him, it didn't feel like it was fated to be. In fact, I wasn't, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't that impressed with him when I first met him. He kind of grew on me. But there certainly wasn't this like immediate, like, I feel like I know this person. I feel like they're familiar. I feel like I know them in my bones, like or something even deeper than that. Like, who is this person? Because something about them, like I was meant to find them somehow, or meet them somehow, or be made aware of them. And then again, it's like, it's so not coincidence. It's just not. It's not coincidence that I realized that you're a part of a cult. It's not coincidence that I noticed you putting that stuff in your videos. You're smart enough to know that. So then what is this? Are you smart enough to have figured that out yet? Or are you as clueless as I am? If you figured it out, I think that would be very unfair for you not to tell me. Very, very unfair. And don't be thinking you're going to use it as leverage to get me to like join you guys or whatever. Like, there's nothing that's going to make that happen. Nothing, ever. Never, ever. So at this point, now we've just cut that option out of the realm of possibilities. We're cutting it loose. It's gone. So what are the other options? The other two options are we just never meet. We continue to possibly, I guess, go back and forth having a secret, cryptic conversation. Well, secret and cryptic on your end. I'm being straightforward about it because, you know, I have courage. And and I'm sure you have courage too, but it's like, come on, dude. And I guess eventually I'll just, honestly, I don't see myself living into my 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe my 50s. Maybe I could keep hanging in there till my 50s. But I definitely don't see myself surviving into my 60s, 70s, 80s, you know, all alone. And just having these conversations with you over YouTube and just wondering and just feeling like I'm missing something, like something that was meant to happen is not happening. And wondering, like, why isn't it happening? It can't possibly be that I was meant to join you, because I will not do that. But it's also not, that's not the only option. So, and I can't do that because then I wouldn't be me. Don't you get it? Like, I can't do that and still be me. So that's not the option. That's not how this was supposed to go. So then the other option is you leave them. I don't know how you'd go about that. I don't even know fully. I don't fully even know the situation, but you are a part of a cult network that has quite a lot of people in it. You know, Jonah Peretti, it's not just your family, it's associates, it's a lot of people. So What would they all just like show up at your house wearing robes and masks and bearing torches if they found that you had bought a ticket to Florida one day? Like, that's just, again, then I have to point out to you, it's like, but somehow you don't see that situation, the situation you're in with these people, as being sick and unhealthy. You don't feel like maybe you've made a huge mistake by surrounding yourself with these people. That they don't seem to care that you're missing out on something that was supposed to happen, clearly, and is not going to happen with me coming to you. That's just not going to happen. So it's either they let you come to me or it never happens. Yeah, your friends are the enemy. They're not your friends. They're the enemy. Your associates, your little coven, your fellow coven members, they are the enemy. They're the obstacle here. They're the ones keeping you from figuring this out. Or again, maybe you are that cruel. Are you that cruel that you've got the world's address on this whole thing? You know what's going on and you're just not telling me? Or maybe you've been trying to tell me in some cryptic fashion and I'm not working it out, which is another reason why I've said, like, hey, how about I don't know. How about you communicate in some other way that is not a YouTube video? It's not a bunch of riddles in a YouTube video. I'd like to think that you're not that cruel. I really would. But maybe that's the lesson I need to learn. Maybe it just maybe this is the same lesson with Dan. Maybe I didn't learn it enough with Dan. It's like, it doesn't matter how much I want somebody to be a good person, or at the very least, doesn't matter how much I want somebody to avoid being cruel. Like, I know you're capable of it, but everybody's capable of being cruel. It doesn't matter how much, it doesn't matter how much I project onto people that the good person that they could be, that doesn't mean that they will choose to be that person, right? And at some point you have to just acknowledge, like, they've made their decision. They don't want to be the better version of themselves. They want to be the version of themselves that chooses to associate with child rapists and people who aren't really their friends, who pose a threat to their lives if they leave the group. And again, like, that's a cult, dude. Like, dude, that's cult 101, characteristic of a cult. You should be allowed to leave without any threat to your physical well-being, your life. If they're making threats against you in any way, even if they're not outright threats, but if you're getting any kind of a sense of, like, some of these people will hurt me, they'll end my life, or they'll kill her, they'll kill me if I leave, then it's like wow. I would stop talking to those people. I wouldn't be able, you should know me but well enough by now. It's like, I'm not good at pretending to be on good terms with somebody when I don't like them, when I think that they're shitty assholes. So it's like, I wouldn't be able to pretend to like your friends if I were in your position right now. I just wouldn't be able to at all. How are you pulling it off, dude? How are you managing it? How are you getting along with them right now? Are you even getting along with them right now? Because again, as far as I can tell, like, I know, I'm sorry, I'm prattling on and on. They're the obstacle here. All right, yeah. You know what? I gotta get a shower and get ready for bed. I'm gonna shut up. Good night. I hope you get away from them someday, even if it's not for me. Like, but I think I think that let me know if I'm wrong, but that probably is at least a part of that is somewhat of an issue, isn't it? Isn't it? That you would run the risk of being hurt by members of your network, coven, whatever you want to call it, if you do things that might displease them. It's like, that's not a family. Like, if that's just that's not a group or anything. That's not a club I'd want to be part of. All right, goodbye.